prosecution outlined how accounting practices did not.
What kind of likeness is that? If they were great artists, they'll be in a museum.
Evidence today may signal at least one.
I'm fucking fodder for cartoonists now.
You're listening to another episode of Gutter Boys. Gutter Boys is a small press comics podcast, ins and outs, highs and lows, yada yada. I'm your host JB with my co-host Cam. On this episode, we are joined with Ohio-based cartoonist, I guess programmer?
Yeah, I would say so. Software developer, programmer.
Yeah. Victoria Douglas, who was at the Hocking Hills retreat as well, that we recently went to. I guess that was like 2 weeks ago at this point. 3 weeks ago?
God, I think it's over a month ago at this point, right?
Yeah, and my sense of time is fucked still, so I don't know. But yeah, we get into it, talk about her work, Cinnamon, along with the upcoming book, and of course, Halftone Hospital. Shout out Halftone Hospital, great resource, but we get into all that. We're going to make this one pretty brief. We're kind of on a time crunch here, as usual.
Yeah, we have to edit this and get it out by, the end of the night.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. I'm going to be heading out to Chicago for a friend of the show, Alex Null's wedding, also past guest. He's getting married this weekend, so all the
beautiful
cartoonists.
Hannah. Congratulations to the lovely couple.
Shout out to Hannah. Yeah, so a lot of past guests and friends of the show will be there, so that'll be nice. Maybe I'll bring my recording equipment. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Actually, no, that's not going to happen. Let's be fucking real. Yeah. So we just wrapped up doing a review of the much hyped comic adjacent, I guess, indie movie Funny Pages with frenemy of the show. And at this point, third gutter boy, Ramon Villalobos, because I don't think we're gonna get another episode of Mex Flantayo for a while. But,
yeah, I think that show's over. Nobody wants to admit it, but it's over.
Yeah. But, also related...
Actually, no, it's not over. Pack Watch. Let's put Mex Flantayo on Pack Watch.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping it's over. It should be over for everyone's sake. Shout out to our friend Daniel Irizarry, who's out in Puerto Rico, obviously impacted quite a bit by Hurricane Ian. So he recently just got his power back, so that's great to hear. But, a lot of infrastructure stuff is still, reeling from what was a Category 5 hurricane. So shout out to all those people. Also shout out to friends, family, whatnot, who are in Florida. Luckily, wasn't as severe as many people were expecting, but still it's pretty bad. Lots of flooding, power outages still affecting many parts of the state. So, hopefully power gets back on soon. Hopefully everybody bounces back sooner rather than later. And then also we want to do another shout out to some friends on the other side of the globe.
Our comrades over in Russia, the Artyms. We got Trakanov and Toplin. You guys are all probably familiar with their work and with them on Twitter, but they are currently in the process of evacuating Russia. And, our hearts and thoughts are with them.
Yeah, the Artyom brothers, great cartoonists. They don't like being called that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're not brothers in real life.
Yeah, they're not brothers. No, they're not related. Great comic artists. Very, very sweet, funny dudes. And all the best. Hope they stay safe. What's going on there is real shitty. Yeah, I mean...
There's really not much I can say outside of it sucks. And,
pretty much.
I'm just, glad that they seem to be doing okay for now. So if you want to support the kids, hit up Artyom Trakanov on Twitter at it used to be a Bunchio, but I forgot his new name.
Oh, did he change it?
It's something else. Hang on, I'm looking it up right now. If you want to support Artyom, join his Patreon. You can find him on Twitter at Vor, VOR _BOKOR. and he's got a link in his bio where you can support him. And if you want to support Artyom Toplin, he's got a ongoing series right now called I Hate This Place, with a special variant that says Fuck This Place, coming out from Image and Skybound. Word on the street is friend of the show, Blake Sims, makes his first ever appearance in that comic in the background.
Oh, hell yeah.
So make sure to get...
Very excited.
Yeah, so but definitely if you want to support the kids, definitely support them. And yeah, like we said, our thoughts are with those guys and just hoping everything's cool with them.
Yeah, not enough real dude Kentucky guy representation, and so it's good to hear that we're finally getting that.
Yeah, right. Well, if you want to hear us talk about cartoonist representation, join our Patreon at patreon.com/gutterboys or gutterboys.top. Like JB said at the beginning of the episode, our next episode is an hour-and-a-half deep dive on the movie Funny Pages. Why is it an hour and a half and not an hour? Because Ramon was on it, and he likes to hear himself talk. But that will be up on the Patreon next Monday, so definitely make sure to subscribe if you're interested in hearing our thoughts on that. I don't want to, give out any spoilers or anything, but if you saw my reaction to the film on Instagram, then I'm sure you already DM'd me about it.
Yeah, but you'll hear more about it in that bonus episode. I actually really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Probably one of our better ones in the last couple of months, which is not saying a lot.
Yeah, it was actually like real talk, quote unquote.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It was real talk. Is also very funny. We we do some bits, banter.
Mm-hmm.
If you want some good solid banter, I think that episode specifically is worth the price of admission for at least 1 month. Just saying. Yeah,
definitely.
All right, so let's go ahead and just cut to the interview. After the break, we'll be joined with Victoria, so stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
What do a pair of deadly assassins, a beefy pile of roided-up high school football players, a zombie outbreak, huge dragons, and a himbo barbarian have in common? You can find them all in the upcoming pages of the Santos Sisters. That's right, Ambar and Alana are back for more gripping adventures. Once again, offset press printed in full color on your favorite decadent newsprint. Prestigious publication. The Comics Journal loved the first issue, calling it a highly entertaining comic. And Katie and Sally from the Thick Lines podcast called it a masterpiece, and more than they deserve. And who are we to disagree? The Santos Sisters is available now. Don't miss out. Ask your favorite comic book retailer to add it to your pull list today, or find it online at santossisters.com.
Rust Belt Review is a quarterly comics lit magazine featuring serialized and short-form comics from some of the most exciting cartoonists in the small press scene today. Volume 1 features work from Gutter alums M.S. Harkness, Audra Stang, and Caleb Arecchio, along with work by Andrew Greenstone, Sean Knickerbocker, and Juan Jose Fernandez. You can order your copy of Rust Belt Review today by going to rustbeltreview.org. Enter in promo code GUTTER to receive $2 off your order. Again, that website is rustbeltreview.org, promo code GUTTER.
Athenium Comic Art is an original art website for some of the best cartoonists in the business. They currently represent Remy Boydell, Marie Capelle-France, Nicole Gu, Jonathan Hill, Emma Hunsinger, Casey Nowak, Micah Song, and Tilly Walden. Athenium Comic Art gives fans the opportunity to own an original piece of art from their favorite comics and support the artists that they love. In their short time in business, they've already shipped many iconic pages out to hardcore fans across the globe. Don't miss out on your chance to own a one-of-a-kind piece of history. Check out their website, atheniumcomicart.com, and type in Gutter Gang at checkout to receive free shipping on your first order. Again, the website is atheniumcomicart.com, and the code is Gutter Gang.
Who loves underground comics? Everybody loves underground comics, and if you know people who don't love underground comics and only read the mainstream comics, immediately report them to your local comic book store and find them with copies of Clusterfucks Comics. Clusterfucks Comics is a black and white underground anthology comic zine featuring some of the best underground comics creators today. Creators like Cameron Zavala, Eric Jasek, Brian Judge, Miguel Aguilar, Adam Yeater, Jason Cavelli, Umberto Tonella, Anna Peterson, Tony DePasquale, Drew B. Hall, and so many more. Issues 1 through 4 are available now, with the 5th issue debuting in early 2023. Purchase your copies today at clusterfuckscomics.bigcartel.com. And that's comics with an X. Clusterfucks Comics. Comics you can clusterfucks with.
Morning, Gary. Morning, Marianne. Need a menu? Nah, I'll just have the usual. You sure do love your eggs and coffee, Gary. Best way to start your morning, Marianne. Well, that and an issue of Town and County. What's that? Town and County is a new comic series written and drawn by cartoonist Alex Knoll. He's that guy that wrote them books about teaching and that Mr. Rogers feller. Oh, he was such a nice man. The first issue is 36 pages of black and white comic stories with beautiful color covers and features 6 stories about folks in our little township here in Illinois, like Susie Barber, the house cleaner that uncovers her client's dirty laundry, if you know what I mean, and Stanley Pepper, that big feller that just lost his job and took to drinking every night at Bugs's Tavern. Well, ain't that something? Town and County is published by Ivy Terrace Press, headquartered in Chicago. Chicago? Who would want to live there? So dirty. Each issue comes with a copy of the Hometown Hero, our little town's newsletter, and it's only $8. $8? Where can I get it, Gary? You can order a copy of Town and County on the internet at StoreEnvy/Alex Knoll Comics. Oh, there's your breakfast, Gary. Thanks, Marianne. Nothing like a cup of coffee and a good comic book.
The Last Aviatrix is a post-nuclear adventure comic by independent, Los Angeles-based cartoonist Buster Cagle. The story follows Summer, our last aviatrix, who pilots the sole-surviving airplane, a nuclear-powered B-29, as she travels the ruined world finding ways to survive and help humanity while dealing with the imminent threat of the Atom-born, a rare breed of atomic wizards that want to see her out of the sky. Her mission becomes complicated when she accidentally picks up Henry, an Atom-born child who wields incredible power, and Clementine, a berserker on a quest for vengeance. Can our aviatrix survive this ruined and irradiated wasteland? Every issue can be read for free on bustercagle.com/comics. Paper copies can be ordered as well, but, you can still read it for free. If you like wizards or warplanes, go check it out.
Now, back to our program.
And welcome back from the break. Today, we are honored to have a very special guest here with us, Victoria Douglas. You may know Victoria from their work, Biblioware, the new self-published comic, Cinnamon over at Behemoth, and also the creator of would you call this a digital suite, the Halftone Hospital? What would you call that? Like the actual assemblage of the product?
That's a great question. Maybe hesitate to say a nonprofit, but just kind of a repository of digital assets.
Hell yeah. Good way to put it. Yeah, so you've probably heard us plug Halftone Hospital on the show. Very cool resource for digital artists out there. We will definitely be getting into that here shortly. But let's go ahead and just start it off. Are you doing okay today, Victoria?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Had some Taco Bell for lunch.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Feeling good.
What's your Taco Bell order? Yeah, we're big Liv Moss fourth meal heads over here.
Right now, definitely Mexican pizza.
Oh,
okay, it's back. Yeah. I heard it's back permanently now.
I sure hope so.
That's the word.
I kill for the veggie Mexican pizza. Anything with the refried beans on it is heaven.
So I never actually I tried the Mexican pizza when they brought it back like this last time, not this time, but and it was pretty good, but I never had it as a kid. Is it the same? Like, did you have it when you were younger?
I think I had it like once or twice, but it was never my go-to. And I think like it coming back now, I was just prepped for it. I was like, I really want a Crunchwrap Supreme, but actually crunchy and with refried beans.
There you go.
And so that was like a slam dunk.
Hell yeah.
I feel like the pizza at Taco Bell is definitely for a more mature palate.
Is there more veggies or something on it than normal, or is there? Because mine was like, I won't even lie, mine wasn't the best made, but it just tasted like Taco Bell. It just had cheese and tomatoes on the top. I don't know if that's how it was supposed to come. Okay, cool.
I think they're supposed to have lettuce, maybe. I recall lettuce.
Yeah, it was solid though. But like you said, the Crunchwrap analogy, I never thought about that, but that's totally like spot on because that's what that is. It's the non-mushy Crunchwrap.
Yeah. Well, it's not in like a little humid chamber.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had an issue with my Crunchwraps. Maybe I've always just been lucky.
You know, if you get them at breakfast, they're better, in my opinion. I don't know if it's like the hash brown, like, you know, putting some padding or something, but that tortilla, after like the first few bites, it just becomes like a mushy mess. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
But
I had a hot minute where I would get the Crunchwrap and cut it in half and like kind of peel out the little half moon of mushy tortilla.
Yeah.
And just slide in a Doritos Locos taco.
Hell yeah, that's the move. Recrunch it up.
Damn, that is a wonderful hack.
You know, I was looking it up the other day. I was like, did they ever do a Cool Ranch Doritos Loco taco? And apparently they did. And I'm surprised that didn't stay on the menu. That sounds amazing.
Like way back when.
Yeah, I missed that.
I think all the Dorito shells, like, they slowly, quietly phase those out. I don't know what happened.
Oh, no, they're still here in Kentucky. They still got those here.
Okay.
Yeah, they go Locos for the Doritos Locos taco down here.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
For a minute in Chicago, at least, the Dorito flavored shells were cheaper than the regular shells, and
really?
I didn't understand why.
I guess, maybe they're trying to liquidate them or something. Or,
I'm not sure.
Alrighty, well, enough Taco Bell. Hopefully the listeners, you're still with us.
Yeah.
But let's get into why we're here. So Halftone Hospital, let's go ahead and get started on that there. It's a series of, brushes, tools, and whatnot that a digital artist can use. Now, I guess to kind of tie this all together, have you always been a digital artist?
For the most part, it was definitely a big focus early on in like my undergrad was kind of this fusion of traditional oil painting and kind of like trying to coerce Photoshop into acting like an oil brush. And it was kind of my white whale. And I never quite felt it was satisfactory because I was barking up the wrong tree. But kind of applying that like borderline obsession with like physical fidelity to something like comics turned out to be like a much better fit.
Now, you mentioned that, you were in an undergraduate program. Did you go to art school? Is that what you studied formally in college?
Yeah. I spent about 8 years at BYU. And then after a nice falling out, I finished my degree at Columbus College of Art and Design, which is where I kind of discovered comics. So I went from like fine art and illustration straight into like underground small press.
Now, with Halftone Hospital being like, a digital suite or whatever, we were saying it was earlier there, like, it's a tool and a bunch of resources for artists. There's some kind of software development and coding involved with developing this stuff. Where does that come in? Was that just like a hobby for you, or did you study that as well?
I think it was my dad was an engineer, and growing up the choice was either art or engineering, and he kind of accepted the art path when I started like actually succeeding at it. Mm-hmm. But there was always this left brain part that said, oh, well, what if you did a little bit more of this? So I worked as a web developer for like 5 years. I enjoyed it. I enjoy that kind of programmatic approach to creativity because a lot of it's just creative problem solving. And so being able to code on my own and really come up with these things, very boutique, helps a lot in making sure like it's the right product and that I can kind of bend these tools to my will. So I think it's just kind of a concurrent thing.
I gotcha. If you could do the whole like explain it to me like I'm 5 type deal, what goes into, making a digital brush? What is the process like on that? If you can kind of distill that down. If, you have to go long, by all means, absolutely. But what is that process like?
Yeah, I think first it's identifying a need, something that I want to be doing. And in a lot of cases that comes from whatever project I'm working on. And like the very real constraints of that. So like if I scan in a page that I did with microns and went, oh God, I want to touch up this bit or do some corrections, then like it just kind of like makes sense to want that micron in my digital toolkit. And so a lot of these things start very nebulously in just what are people asking for? What are people messaging me about? And then it's really just being mindful and observant. First of all, doing a ton of drawings specifically to like push the limits of what microns are doing, then doing very high fidelity scans of those marks, and then just kind of building forward off of that. I really don't want these tools to be like trying to mimic old school stuff while being like contemporary or wholly digital. Because that's like kind of the common thing is like, here's a smart PSD that we're going to drop your stuff into and it will make it look like you printed it with Rezo. And like, that's cool and all, but then like you're missing the actual Rezo part.
Right.
And that's like kind of the opposite that I'm trying to accomplish with Halftone Hospital is like every comic has a digital component. It doesn't matter how analog you are. You're going to eventually scan it and put it together in whatever for your PDF to send to the printers. Like there's always a digital aspect. So I think my goal is to grease the wheels of when you choose to bring that digital aspect in to your traditional work. I want it to feel like it's accenting what you're doing traditionally and like facilitating corrections or changes without like stealing it and saying, you don't need your nibs anymore. You don't need your pens anymore. We can do it all here. I think I want it to feel like a support and not a replacement.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome because, you know, it seems like to have like, there does seem to be that whole like digital versus traditional war. So to, you know, have in your mind, like to merge the concepts rather than like, oh, how can I just make this its like, you know, own thing? I kind of like the concept and the thought behind that, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit difficult to refute because a lot of people are very analog or very digital and really kind of like hedge their bets in each camp.
Yeah.
But to just kind of exist in the middle is important. And like realistically, most projects aren't just 100% digital either.
Right.
Maybe your final page is going to be digital only, but you may be doing sketches in a sketchbook or character designs elsewhere and all this stuff. You just need to be able to go back and forth. And that's all I want to do is facilitate that for others and, you know, obviously get these tools out as efficiently as we can, aka free, has been kind of the modus operandi from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're doing with Halftone Hospital has been a huge positive for a lot of new creatives and cartoonists and just people in general that want to draw digitally, and them being able to have access to these really well-made, thoughtful tools for free. Like you said, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about that something like this even exists. I think it's fantastic that you're able to do this, and I really hope that this inspires more people to do the same and, you know, provide more assets and tools for people who, you know, can't afford to drop $200 on a fucking digital packet or whatever.
Yeah, and for something you might not even like.
Right,
because you don't get to try it out until, you know, it's very rare you get like a sample of everything in the pack.
Yeah. Or the sampler that they release is like it's not enough to make like a full page with or a full illustration. It's just kind of like you can open it up and doodle around and go, ooh, that's a nice brush, but like where does this actually fit in like my workflow?
Yeah.
The whole thing really pulls from like free and open source software and from the software development side.
Okay.
Where like how much of like software development is building on the heels of other people.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah.
And so it's about like copyright protection, but only so far as it maintains accessibility to the users. And so like I don't care what people do with Halftone Hospital as long as they don't start like charging money for whatever they do with it. With the tools themselves. I for sure want to make like commercial projects with these tools.
But you don't want to see someone like repackage your assets and claim. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it really is just about keeping it in the hands of the people. And I hope this inspires people. I've gotten a few people involved where they're sending me scans of envelopes or halftones or things like that. And I'm going to package them up and release them. But I also hope that people feel empowered to like do that on their own.
Yeah.
And just get shit out there. So
that was my next question is were there going to be future updates, and do you plan on, you know, sticking with this for a while, or do you kind of have an endpoint and goal with the development of Halftone Hospital?
I have a pretty robust roadmap. I have a lot of projects I want to do with it. So many gaps in the digital process and places that are being filled by software like Clip Studio Paint in like a limited way, but I want to just blow the whole can open and really shake things up for digital comics. Eventually, I would love to get into physical products and designing innovative tools for creating traditional comics, because we really haven't seen any like comics oriented innovation. It all feels like it just piggybacks on drafting and like architectural drawing, where like nobody's making truly boutique like physical tools outside of like Japan.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the very long term kind of tinkering plan is to make rulers and clipboards and like flat files for comic artists specifically. But that's like maybe a 10-year plan. I think I'll be rolling with this at least in the very, very free software oriented side for a long time.
Now, how long were you working on this before you found it was like, you know, ready to be launched and everything?
Negative like a month. I think I'm very meticulous about my tools already. And so everything was already packaged up into these neat little folders for myself. And so something just kind of snapped, and I registered the website in one like afternoon, got it all up and running, and it was online the next day.
I feel like Halftone just like came out of nowhere. when I was on Instagram, it just like popped up on my feed. And I was like, what is this? Is amazing. Like,
I think I had about 100 followers before I even posted a thing.
Yeah.
Which is like so weird. I think it's just the algorithm pointing people that follow my main account to it. And then people saying, oh my God, I really want this.
Yeah.
So by the time I actually posted anything, it was like ready to go. And there were already people wanting it, which is great. I mean, the reception has been like over the moon. So good.
Yeah. I mean, there's clearly a demand for stuff like this, but then you add on top of the fact that it's like nonprofit, you know?
Yeah.
I could see a lot of cartoonists being really supportive of something like this.
Well, it's such an odd thing. And not to like, because it's not about the money.
Right.
But like I've tried and failed like probably 3 or 4 times to start like an online Gumroad shop doing the same kind of thing of selling assets and resources, because it's something that I really love doing. And like I know that I'm providing value. And so to not get much traction before and really not have any success selling resources for like $5, $10, $20 was like, maybe it was revelatory to me that maybe I didn't know who my audience was. And so coming into Halftone Hospital and really just from the get-go saying it's got to be free, people have still been very generous with tipping through Gumroad.
Hell yeah.
And so like I've made more money with a free shop than I did with any of my attempts to actually like make a living at this.
Yeah.
And that's just on the backs of generosity. And it's like, it's not like a ton, but it's enough to pay for hosting. It's enough to pay for the ongoing development of these tools. And that's way more than I can ask for.
Definitely.
For sure.
We'll definitely let you plug it at the end. But if someone were
Absolutely.
interested in Halftone Hospital, where can they find all that, just if they're listening right now?
It is halftonehospital.com or on Instagram at Halftone Hospital.
Sick.
Keep it nice and straightforward.
Alrighty, so getting into your comics work, where did that all, I became familiar with you and your work, honestly, through Cinnamon, which I just picked up because I thought it looked interesting off the shelf before I, followed you on Instagram and everything. And Behemoth was the publisher on that, but that was a fairly recent comic, and I'm assuming that your journey did not start there, considering you said that once you transferred schools, that's when you kind of found like comics. Was this in Chicago that you went to school?
In Columbus.
Oh, Columbus, Ohio. Sorry, I thought you said Columbia. I'm sorry. Okay, awesome.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, so were you in the comics program there with like Emmy and everything, or was this before all that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So I transferred there in 2018.
Uh-huh.
And prior to that, I had never touched comics. And, and not only that, but like comics really left a bad taste in my mouth. And I was like, I'll never do comics. I'll never do comics. I'm a fine artist. I'm an illustrator.
Not to interrupt, but what was it about comics that left a bad taste in your mouth? Because I think that's like really funny, and not funny in like a derogatory way. Because I feel like that is like the general perception before you get involved.
Yeah, so I think it was like decades of maladaptive ideas of success and a really poor environment at the school I was at that really emphasized like productivity and stability and making a shitload of money. And none of those things were really happening with any of the people graduating into comics. It felt self-indulgent when I would meet peers who were like, yeah, I'm working on my webcomic. I want to make success out of Webtoon. And it just felt like such a pipe dream that wasn't like accessible. And so I just kind of like hesitate to say I looked down on it, but it was just that's not for me. That's not for me. Granted, like I've been proven wrong on so many counts. Like it wasn't even based in any sort of like productive modality. It was just me kind of finding ways to look down on people who are pursuing their passion. And I mean, like it was a very rigorous private university, private religious university. So it was all just kind of a combination of factors. If it wasn't done in oil paints, like I didn't even care. So at the very least, I had a very complicated relationship with comics because it's also what I read all the time.
Okay, I see. So you were consuming comics. You were an audience?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was definitely, but it was all like through kind of the lens of the other, because I read a lot of manga in high school, and it just felt like that's across the ocean. I don't have to worry about how it's made or like who's doing it and why. So I think 2018 was pretty formative in like just shaking me up and getting me to kind of question everything that I had held about art and about comics.
Yeah, so did you just, move to Columbus and you were like, you know what, let's give this comics thing a go? Like, what was it, internally that was like, okay, what kind of switched where you were like, oh, this is something that I want to try and I feel like I can excel in this medium?
Yeah. So like, not to get too much into it, but I was raised LDS, grew up in the Mormon church, and that like really was my sense of self and identity. And in 2018, that all just kind of came to a halt. I came out as trans and got kicked out of school. And like that was just a whole thing. And so I moved back to Ohio because that's where my family was. That's where my wife's family like was adjacent to. They're down in Kentucky. And it was just kind of a like time to rebuild my life. What does that need to look like right now?
Mm-hmm.
And so going from one of the most conservative schools in the nation to like a very liberal arts school, it was like drinking from a fire hose and just like having to renegotiate a lot very quickly. And so I think when I asked the question of like, what do I actually want to do for the rest of my life? It was almost an act of rebellion to say, I'm going to do the one thing that I never let myself do before. And it happens to be something that Columbus is very uniquely suited for. I was surrounded by incredible comics creators. And it was like, wait, this isn't capes and cowls. This isn't like Superman versus Batman. Not that there was anything bad with that, but it just wasn't what spoke to me. And so I think discovering small press comics through the Columbus community was just illuminating. And all of a sudden it was something that I was like, I needed more of and couldn't get enough of.
Going back to our cabin retreat in Hocking Hills, I remember, one of the things that you talked about pretty adamantly, was that sense of community, of this idea that you have a network of people that care about the same stuff you do and are maybe not going through the same things as you are, but there's so much common ground in terms of your interests and your practice and, what gets you out of bed every day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that is something that it's really hard to replace that, especially in like this sort of quote unquote post-pandemic world where we're not as physically connected as we used to be.
Yeah.
And, I'm of the opinion that a lot of networking and whatnot and socializing and kind of finding your people or whatever in comics, you can do that online for the most part, but it is not a complete replacement for physical interaction with people like the Hocking Hills retreat or any small press show that you table at, like that's stuff that is in a lot of ways irreplaceable.
Yeah. And like cartoonists are scrappy too. I mean, the pandemic hit and it's like, okay, cool. See y'all in 2 years. And we all just kind of checked out and,
yeah,
things came back and there's a resiliency and like an authenticity to my interactions with cartoonists and comic people across the board that like just feels more lasting than like, hey, we're going to go to a networking event and shuffle our portfolios around the room and talk about how great we are. I'm going to market myself to you and then maybe we'll be friends.
Yeah. Real bleak
stuff. Very
like,
so comics is very frank about who you are and what we're all about. And it's very open.
Yeah. And I feel like those connections that you make with other cartoonists, it's usually pretty instant. which I find very funny. It's, it's not something where it's like, oh, you'll warm up to them or they'll warm up to you or whatever. It's usually like within the first 10 minutes that you understand, okay, can I fuck with this person? Right? Like,
yeah.
And if you can, then boom, you all are friends. That's it. That's the end of it. While we're on that, we might as well talk about the Hocking Hills retreat. So
yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. I know you were extremely positive about it because was this your first run at the Hocking Hills retreat?
I went to the second one.
Oh, you did the winter one.
Okay, so you went the winter one.
Yeah,
Okay. So I'd like to hear your take about, your experiences with those two and how they compare and whatnot. Just your overall takeaway from it all.
Well, first of all, both were amazing. Really transformative. The winter one was like pretty helter-skelter. I mean, there were some like systemic issues with losing the cabin halfway through and needing to migrate. It was all very harebrained, but I mean, did like the absolute best possible job keeping it on rails.
Yeah. And shout out to MS. I'm gonna have to bleep that out.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Just if you bring up MS, we have been explicitly told not to say the government name, not to like, well, actually, but we will beep that don't think that it's, anything crazy. It's kind of a gag anytime we say it on the show.
We're just like, fuck. Edit that. God damn it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I think the winter retreat was pretty crazy. I knew like nobody there outside of Craig, not even MS. We had met like very barely at the Blockford event after the first one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
And she was like, yo, you're Victoria. I've seen your work. Like, you seem cool as hell. Let's do something. And so it felt like a very quick friendship going on the retreat, but also like, oh my God, I don't want to be the pity invite. But quickly found like a groove and walked away from it with pretty damn good friends. And likewise for the third retreat, like it was just such a good time with good people. And that's all I really needed it to be.
Do you feel like there was much of a difference between the two outside of, like situational mishaps? Like, do you feel like it was different going in the winter versus the summer as far as getting into the headspace, like willing to work? Like, do you think there were any differences between going at different times in the year?
I feel like both kind of took on the footprint of everyone's collective personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And so the winter retreat was maybe a bit more subdued, less crazy Uno games and more just like kind of general vibing.
Yeah.
Lots more drawing in like a very casual sense. I think it was more just a function of the space and the people in it. Tons and tons of couches. And so it was just great to just post up and have a few beers and way more of an excuse to be in the hot tub for hours on end when it's
for sure.
negative something outside. Yeah, I don't like functionally. I felt like they were both kind of two sides of the same coin, where I feel like it was everyone coming with kind of the same needs for just interaction, and finding it in slightly different ways. But overall, just kind of the same. I feel like people from both retreats would have the exact same things to say at the end of it, and that's pretty telling.
No, for sure. So all in all, endorsing the MS Harkness Cartoonist Retreat here on the show. So if there is future ones, I don't know if MS is going to stay true to the word of 2 times and you're out, but if not, maybe we'll run into each other again there. But it's definitely something that I think is beneficial to a cartoonist. It doesn't even have to be that retreat, but just like bunking up with some other cartoonists for a while, a short amount of time or a long amount of time. I think there is something very constructive to that environment.
Well, I think if anyone were to ask MS, they would say, please, God, go do more of your own.
Right.
Plan this shit. Like, just go do it. And there's really no reason not to. Like, if you're in a city with, like, even just a handful of artists, go find them. Figure it out. Go post up and just spend a week. Or even just a little weekend. I hope that these can become more commonplace and more accessible. Because, like, it is just good. It's good to see people and then go back to your daily life. And, like, sometimes it's just not feasible to be in a giant comics town.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I'm already... Maybe it, like, turned a key a little bit of, whoa, I'm allowed to do things with people. I'm allowed to, like, set this up and make shit happen,
Definitely. Now, do you think that Columbus is do you feel like you're going to put roots down in Columbus and stay there? Or is this just kind of something that you see as a stop along the journey?
100% want to stick around. Columbus is definitely home. My wife and I live about an hour west of Columbus in a small town.
Oh, okay.
But more or less just kind of staying attached to the Columbus area has been incredible for us. So I don't see us leaving anytime soon. We bought a house last year, and so we are definitely like grounded now. But I've also never lived anywhere more than 3 years, so I have no idea how it's going to pan out.
Yeah, I gotcha. Before we get into, Cinnamon, I feel like, and then, the new stuff there.
Yeah.
You moved in 2018, started, the comics courses there. Was Cinnamon something that you immediately started working on, or what were you working on before that?
Oh, man. Okay, so Cinnamon was my senior capstone project. And so I started my senior year. I was only at CCAD for 2 years. So I had 1 year prior, and I only got to take one comics class before that. And so I did a couple of one-shots, a couple of single-page comics, like really nothing to speak of. Everything that I did do ended up in kind of this anthology book called Deviled Egg Dominoes, but there's literally nothing in there that's more than like 8 pages.
Okay.
Cinnamon, like I sat down with the head of the comics program, Lauren McCubbin, like first day of the semester of my senior year, and said, I've really like never made a comic before. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm here to work hard. So like, give me a lot to do. Like, please send me down every rabbit hole. If you ask Craig about it, he would give me lists of books to read, and I'd just go straight over to the library, pick up 20 comics, and try and read them all by the next class.
Hell yeah.
I needed to know as much as possible. And all that just kind of culminated in Cinnamon. And so I spent the last year in school kind of chipping away at that first issue. And it pretty much made it past graduation and into a publisher without any editing. It really is just kind of the final version of my senior project in school.
So that was one of your first like actual like fully realized comic projects besides like the shorter work.
Yeah.
So
100%.
You went straight to, well, no, not to say you didn't self-publish, but I mean, pretty quickly you went straight to being published in the direct market with Behemoth.
Yeah.
So was that you taking the initiative to pitch because, is that what they're teaching you in school, or how did that happen? Like
I was like kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do post-graduation.
Yeah.
They reached out to me.
Okay.
So I feel like I just got lucky. They came to me before they had even published anything. They had just acquired the rights to Hotline Miami and like a bunch of other stuff. And so it was kind of...
Yeah, I was going to ask what their deal is. Like, it seems like movie adaptations and then video game stuff. And then they'll have original titles like Cinnamon.
Yeah, I mean, it's across the board. And I think it was a product of them being just super new and kind of shooting across all bows.
Yeah.
And so they really kind of pitched it as if you take a chance on us, we'll take a chance on you kind of a deal. Not like as formally as that, but that's really what it felt like. They're very quickly navigating the space, and they kind of extended that to me. And like, I'm glad I said yes. It was scary as hell because it did feel kind of odd, like out of nowhere to get, solicited by this publisher with no books out. But I liked the things that I was seeing from them kind of behind the scenes and preemptively. And so I just kind of said, to hell with it, like wherever this goes, at the very least, it'll be experience. And it turned out to be a pretty good move, especially for Cinnamon. Really kind of gave it room to breathe and let me kind of do what I wanted with it.
Hell yeah. Now, so you've seen both sides of the coin. You've got a self-published comic about to come out with Biblioware, and being in the middle, seeing that, huge distribution, and also having to be like, hey, to get this book, go to your store, here's the diamond code, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then also you're hitting the road and, doing like self-published zines and comics. Like, what do you think is and it's okay if the answer is both, but what do you feel is the better model? Do you like the DIY approach, or do you like the hands-off, this is done, the publisher does what they do now?
That's a tough one, because I feel like when I was in school, 100% of my interface with comics was small press. It was going to shows like SPX and Cartoon Crossroads, and it felt so liberating. It really garnered this idea of like, an artist or a writer is going to give you a book and it's got 2 covers on it and everything in the middle is what they thought was worth giving to you. And if you take a chance on it, then you get like a banging book. And nobody makes stuff that they don't believe in. But then direct market, there's a lot of pomp and circumstance around it. Lots of marketing and lots of hype and lots of review channels who will never say anything negative about a book. Because why shoot the little guy in the foot? And so like, I felt like it was great to feel out the direct market. I'm not a big fan of it. It kind of necessitates playing a ball game that I don't really want to be playing of like promotion. That I'm much happier self-publishing or working with much smaller limited publishers. But given the opportunity again to do like a serialized comic, I would probably take it. I enjoyed my time with Cinnamon and still have some things brewing there, but I don't think I've really cut off either option for myself.
Is Cinnamon going to continue? Because it was the 3 issues and now it's a trade. Do you have plans for the future of that?
It's a bit in limbo right now. I've kind of more or less stepped away from it for a minute. I had started on Cinnamon 2 when the imprint of Behemoth that Cinnamon was on, Happy Tank, kind of splintered off and started Whatnot Publishing, which is like a whole crazy thing of its own that like I haven't really decided if that's like the right move for Cinnamon, because it's just kind of a massive ecosystem of selling and collecting, and it's honestly a bit intimidating. I'm sitting on kind of an outline and like a finished issue of Cinnamon 2, but for now I'm stepping away to do other projects.
Hell yeah. So you kind of teed it up there perfectly. You said you had other stuff to work on. I know Biblioware was just printed, I'm assuming making its debut at CXC.
Yeah, it's going to have a little debut at Philly Comics Expo this weekend.
Oh, okay. So this will air Monday. So hopefully if you're listening to this, you saw and picked up that book this weekend at Philly Comics Expo. And if not, you can pick it up at CXC, which should be next weekend by the time this airs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, that's out, and that is what you're currently, I guess, quote-unquote, promoting, but you said you were also interested in working on other things. So what can you tell us about Biblioware and, what's next comics-wise for you?
So Biblioware is a departure from, like, anything else I've ever done, and was really kind of a direct product of the first retreat I went on, which was a ton of autobio cartoonists, and just seeing how people attacked the idea of self-relational comics was eye-opening again. I think, just deconstructing what it is or isn't to like write about yourself and what you're allowed to do. And so Biblioware is just kind of a collection of more a stream of conscious comics where like I'm not really talking about who I am or like what is about me as a person, but by the end of it you get the vibe of who I am and what I'm about. So just kind of maybe dry humor is a good way to put it. It's kind of a product of technological detritus. I'm tired of the internet, and that really informs this. It was a mistake. So
I saw a tweet that was like it was talking about like the Avengers movie, and it was just like the funniest part of the Avengers movie was Ultron spent 10 seconds on the internet and was like, "Nah, y'all gotta go."
Yo, it's the truth, though. It's the truth. Like I am definitely a product of the digital age and like grew up on the internet and everything, but like Twitter's everyone on their worst behavior.
Yes, myself included.
I log in, I see it, I just completely tune out everything.
Yeah.
So I've kind of gone back to like Web 2.0 and just kind of self-hosting my own website and throwing up shit there that like, I don't know. It's a bit more decentralized and less like I'm being force-fed how I should think or feel. And so I think that's, God, it's a lot. I have a love-hate relationship with the internet.
No, I agree. I mean, we could probably make a whole episode on the positives and negatives of that. But, so it's going to be interesting to see you tackle that.
We touched a little bit about this. Obviously, you've been working digitally for a while now.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about process. What's your process like for making a comic because, you did mention you're doing some stuff analog. So are you doing like thumbs analog and then doing it all digital, or, what's that like?
So at least right now, if it's not going to be 100% digital, which a lot of my stuff is right now, I'll typically do thumbs and roughs digitally where I can like cut and slice and chop everything up. And then I'll print blue lines or I'll do it on a light table and ink traditionally, which I've done that mostly for smaller projects, anthology contributions, trying to get back into the swing of really inking traditionally. I sketch pretty much entirely traditionally these days, but I think pairing up the idea of finished work being traditionally inked is something that like I've been hesitant for, because I think the original plan for Cinnamon was to ink the whole thing with a nib, and I think I was just too scared to commit to that at the time.
That's fair.
And so I think I'm just looping back around to that idea, because that's like actually getting in with pen and ink is my favorite for sure.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
But yeah, right now, like I lean pretty heavily on the digital pre-production, being able to plot out lines for perspective grids without busting out a ruler and T-square is really convenient. Just kind of saving time. Generally, I'll mock up all the text and make sure it's all set right, and then I'll hand ink over it. Because I enjoy hand lettering way more than just like typesetting a whole comic and just calling it done. It's like it's missing this critical part of the skill and process of making a comic that like I feel like it's important to preserve that.
Yeah, it is pretty jarring. Like if you were to just as an exercise, if you were to take any alt comic in the last 30 years, and you were to just replace all of the text that's been handwritten or drawn with pre-existing fonts, it's very, very jarring. It almost makes it a completely different book more often than not, and not for the better.
Yeah. I feel like it just gets further and further into this like gulf.
Yeah.
Swallowing the gap. I saw some book, I picked it up, it looked beautiful. It was hand painted watercolor pages, stunning, and then it was just like the most prototypical Illustrator speech bubbles and type that like I'd ever seen. And it's like you've built such a chasm that like you can't even bear to cross it. Like I just want this to be hand lettered so bad that I think that's kind of the chip on my shoulder right now, is I just want to hand letter everything for the rest of my life. And just put in the hours to do that.
Yeah, no, and I think you're better for it.
Yeah.
The end result is far more satisfying. I guess I just don't understand the mindset of I just spent 600 plus hours working on this comic, and so now I'm going to do these half measures and letter it with a typeface. I don't understand that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like one thing to scan your own writing in, like I think there might be some merit to that. Like if you make your own font, like it's, to me, one of the most jarring things about mainstream comics is like how, even though there's different letterers working on those books, you wouldn't be able to tell.
They're all interchangeable.
Yeah, like it all looks so fake.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I digress.
Yeah. Although speaking of scanning in your own like letter forms, I discovered about a year ago this extension for Photoshop and Illustrator called Font Self.
Okay.
It's a little expensive if I remember correctly. It was like $60.
Mm-hmm.
But you scan in all your letters, and then it does like kind of that auto job that some of these online generators do of like making a font. But it does really intelligent auto kerning that is like, because when I was making my own fonts out of my own letters, I was trying to do it all by hand, like the hard way.
Yeah.
And it was taking hours and hours of kerning. But I highly recommend to anyone who wants to digitize their handwriting to check out Font Self, because it like saved my bacon doing Cinnamon, especially on like the later issues when I hit a time crunch and it's like, no, maybe I don't have 30 hours to hand letter. Got to get this out the door.
Yeah, for sure.
Really expedited the process, and worth the pickup if you're committed to digital comics.
So regarding, the physical versus digital, I know you said you try to operate in the medium. if you had one thing to say to both sides, like, or I mean, just to like one side, like if you had to make a statement on like the physical versus digital, like what would you say? Do you think it's like all nonsense that people argue over it? Like, what's your actual stance? Like,
oh man, I'm a fence sitter. I like Mac versus PC. I really don't give a shit. Android versus iPhone. I really don't give a shit. I've made my own decisions based on my needs. The biggest thing for both sides is just be open-minded, because you're definitely leaving something on the table.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter what your process is, you can gain something by being a little bit more analog or being a little bit more digital, or at least not being scared of either of them.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, you know, it's also about the reason. Because, like, if you're refusing to draw traditionally because there's no undo button, then maybe you have a crutch and you should get better at drawing. And, like, sometimes that's the thing people need to hear, is just do the thing that makes you uncomfortable, because you're really holding yourself back otherwise.
Yeah, force yourself out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, before we get into listener questions, JB, do you have anything that you want to circle back around to or cover?
What is one Taco Bell item that you would like to see come back to the menu?
Oh, geez. I'd love to see nacho fries permanently.
Yes, that's probably the best answer.
That's like the only real one. That is the best answer.
Correct. Yeah.
The other item that I really like that surprisingly a lot of people don't remember is they used to have these things called enchiritos that were amazing.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
that's a while back.
Yeah, do you remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were so good. Did you ever have one, JB?
I don't think I did.
So it was literally just like, it was like kind of small. You know how like they have like the cheese roll up, which is like the most pointless fucking menu item on the Taco Bell menu, by the way. But
it's offensive.
Yeah, like
item is,
if you've never ordered the cheese roll up, it's literally just like the poor person college meal. Like, not to say that there's anything wrong with being poor, but it's just literally like a soft like shell taco that they sprinkle a little bit of cheese in and they roll it and microwave it. It's like the saddest thing you can get, but they took something that was that size and it had like, you know, like the beef and the cheese and like some veggies, and then they cover it in a red sauce and cheese and you ate it with a fork. And they used to have like a commercial song and everything on it. It was really good. I would bring that back.
Yeah,
I was partial of the double-decker taco.
Oh, same. Big.
Wait, what's the double decker? Is that not the gordita crunch type deal, or?
Nah. So it's a hard shell taco.
Okay.
And then they put refried beans in a soft taco over that.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like the gordita double stuffed, or what they call that? The double cheesy double gordita or whatever, but
kind of, yeah.
Thinner outer tortilla.
And more refried beans.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot more.
That was the glue. Yeah, instead of cheese, that's the big kicker. Yeah. That sounds crazy. Why would they not keep that on the menu? You could definitely still make that.
You probably could. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's been off the menu for so long, you would just sound like a crazy person to some Zoomer that's working.
Yeah, they'd be like, "What are you talking about? That's not Baja Blast."
Yeah.
It was kind of from the days of the $2 meal deal.
Yeah.
And it kind of went away about the same time.
Yeah.
Yep. Also, it is crazy that like you can't get anything for like $1 at Taco Bell anymore.
No.
Yeah, it used to be a country. We also got rid of 7-layer burritos, right? Like that's not a thing anymore.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Just leaning on the 5-layer.
Yeah.
Awful.
No veggies.
No, yeah. I know a friend of the show, Mike Dick, has talked about this. Or maybe it was, anyway, they had talked about the Bell Beefer at one point.
Oh, yes.
Which was just a sloppy Joe with taco shit on top of it.
Never remember that, but it sounded awful.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure my fat ass would have loved it as a kid, but yeah, no.
It is fun to say. It's got a cool name.
Oh, yeah. the Bell Beefer? Come on.
The Bell Beefer, name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Sorry, we went way off topic there.
That's
anyway,
okay.
Yeah, let's get some questions. Let's get some listener questions going.
So as always, if you want to participate in the show, you can follow us online at Gutter Boys Podcast on Instagram, Gutter Boys Pod on Twitter, or you can email us at gutterboyspodcast@gmail.com. We did get some listener questions this week for Victoria. JB, I'll let you start them because my dogs are going crazy.
I hear them, yeah.
I'm going to actually step away so you'll hear this. I'm going to tell them to quiet down. I don't know what they're barking at, but go ahead and ask the first question. I'll be right back.
Of course.
Okay. First question from our listeners. All right. Instagram user Tom Stu Divine asked, the soft finish of your work is the bee's knees. How did you come up with this effect?
Oh, geez. So I did a comic a few years ago, inked on the backside of vellum. And then when I scanned it in, it kind of did this whole like diffusing the light through the back of it deal.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'd seen this effect online where like you get this kind of soft line art look that feels like it's drawn on tracing paper. And so I think in some part that was an attempt to like recreate it in real life. And I really did like the effect. And so I did these high resolution scans and just kind of dissected it and tried to get a drop shadow in Photoshop that the same.
Okay.
Because you can jump into like the curves of the drop shadow to make it more like darker, closer to the edges, and then like drop off exponentially instead of like linearly. And so it ended up looking really nice, and I've been slowly dialing it in. And that's actually the very next Halftone Hospital resource that I'm plugging away at. Is kind of an explanatory zine, how this effect works and why, and kind of putting together all of my high-res scans over the years, because a lot of software isn't quite as robust with styles, and so you have to get the same effect through like Gaussian blur on your line art and like layering a couple of blurred layers.
Right, okay.
And so it ends up being pretty nuanced, and you just kind of want to feel it out for yourself as well, but the quick and dirty answer is you duplicate your line art layer and then Gaussian blur it.
Okay.
All right. This is a question from Instagram user Andrew Salsam Art for Victoria. Most influential piece of comic or manga art that influenced you?
Oh, man. I think there's probably a lot of like answers from my childhood, like Akira, that were like super influential to like read. But there is a definite clear most influential, and that's Freddie Carrasco's Gleam.
Okay.
The first time I went to Small Press Expo was 2019, and he was debuting that book.
Okay.
And I think that was like the aha moment of this is what you're allowed to do with small press. This is it's so unhinged and like slow and emphasized on style that like I needed to see it. And like my copy is falling apart because I keep rereading it. And just the quality of his line art is so... It really sent me down a rabbit hole of like Taiyo Matsumoto and like Tekkon Kincrete that is definitely what I jive with. So,
do you know the reason why that book is out of print right now?
I do not.
So, I mean, it might be back in print now, but it was worth some coin for a while, and it's because one of the warehouses that Viz was using had a fire, and they lost all the copies of that book in the fire. That was one of the casualties. So that's why that book is hard to get right now.
I ordered first couple of volumes of Chainsaw Man, and they were on back order for like 7 months because it was like
part of
the week of the fire.
Oh shit! Okay.
So they said they had it, and then they just didn't all of a sudden. So yeah, that was wild. From what I hear, it's pretty well bounced back, but not fully.
Yeah, I would imagine like something that they got the license for and printed like 10 years ago, like Tekkon Kincrete. Maybe they're just like, we can't renegotiate this unless we open up another contract. So it's a write-off. I'm just speculating there. I'm not saying for sure that I have any kind of inside knowledge, but I imagine some of those titles that were, just kind of sitting around without any kind of reprintings on the decks, maybe they're the biggest casualties of that fire. But yeah, all right. Next question. You got that, JB?
All right. Instagram user Mike's_notsane asked, what did the initial pitch proof of concept look like for Cinnamon?
Luckily for me, the pitch looked like a full finished single issue.
And that's how you get it done. That's how you get it done. Actually, this brings up a good point, because there are so many people who do go to school for comics specifically, and right out the gate they have a book, and people are like, well, how does that work? And that's because you're working on it the entire time.
Yeah.
It's like as soon as you step out with that degree, you now have a finished book. And publishers will definitely edge more towards a yes if you give them something that is already complete, meaning there's no wait time. They don't have to, sit on their hands while you finish the book. If it's done and they like it, you'll probably get that shit published. So something to think about for, a lot of people that are in self-publishing. And you're listening to this, you probably already have like a pretty lengthy amount of pages or even a completed book on your hands. Just throw it at a publisher. I mean, if you really want to go down that path.
As part of Cinnamon, we did have to put together like kind of a pitch Bible. But by the time that I was working things out with Behemoth, they really didn't give a shit about it. It was like, okay, you've seen this first issue. I mean, the first issue of Cinnamon was just on my website for free. Like, I really didn't put any like emphasis on it. And like that, it has to say a lot if you're going to pitch a first issue, because otherwise if the readers can't pick up on what the publisher needs to pick up, then they're not going to read the second issue.
Right.
So it better be its own pitch, not for the publisher, but for the reader.
Yeah.
In a way that even like graphic novels or longer just books don't need to negotiate, because if you spend money on a book, you're going to read the whole book.
Yeah.
But if you buy in issue 1, there's nothing to say you need to buy the next installment without the hook.
Right. Yeah.
It's like a different type of creating experience altogether.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just if you're not like an auteur doing everything yourself, that can be a whole lot more difficult to like collaborate and get people on board. Like, hey, make this comic for free so that I can pitch it. Doesn't really like ring too well to people, but do everything you can to give the most complete product you can, and at least get a few pages inked. That's like a necessity.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's like you also have to show to people, not just readers, but also publishers, that like you're capable of being consistent and putting something out from beginning to end.
No, for sure.
And, if you can do that, then hey,
that's half the battle.
Yeah, exactly.
More than half the battle, honestly. That's like 85% of the battle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty. Next question came from friend of the show and previous retreat alumni, E. Joy Mayer. What advice would you give to someone just starting out with nibs and ink? I guess that's kind of for if anybody has any catch-all tips. Me, I don't have any because I'm Micron and digital, so yeah.
I'd say try a bunch of nibs. Get the prestigious like Hunt 102 or the G nib. Like pick up all the cool stuff that people love, but really just go down to Michael's and buy some shit nibs and just do it a lot. I guess I don't have any like specific advice, because like it's so odd as someone who like is so focused on tools and the trade and the process of creating things. Like in the end, it feels like the tool is just an extension of what you want to make with it. So if it fits that bill, by all means, keep using that nib.
I like that. It's an extension of what you want to make with it. That's profound. Nice.
All right.
You don't have any nib ink advice,
no,
JB?
I don't fuck with nibs. Never use them. Don't really want to. I'm not trying to be an old timey like OG like cartoonist type. I will stick with my brush pens and I'll be fine, I think.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah.
I guess if I had any recommendations for like pens and nibs, I personally use the Zebra G nibs. And PH Martin Black Star ink is just super duper black. But I also use just like whatever the Blick India ink Black Cat is in a pinch when I don't have access to Black Star. So really it's, if you're going to be scanning it in anyways, you can adjust levels. So it doesn't even really matter what ink you use anymore.
True.
Yeah. This is not nib or ink related, but on the trip, I tried out those Tombow pens, and I'm never looking back. Those things are awesome. So yeah, those things are in the rotation. I've got one on me at all times right now. So those are pretty sick.
Nice.
Yeah. I just found out that Blick started carrying Lamy fountain pens.
Oh, okay.
And I've been trying to play with those for a long time. So I picked some up just yesterday, and I've been drawing with them like a fiend.
You like it?
I really like it. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Great kind of chunky pen to just have on me.
Sick.
Instagram user Drawbehell asks,
what up, Drew? Happy birthday, by the way. I think.
Oh shit, it's his birthday today. Oh shit. Okay.
I don't know if it's his birthday, but they were MS and Drew were making creme brulee on the sidewalk on Instagram stories for Drew's birthday.
Okay, maybe his birthday. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
got to confirm that later.
It's coming up. I believe the first of the second.
Okay, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
That'll literally be the day this airs the day after that. So happy belated, Drew.
There you go. All right. He asked best, worst pizza in Columbus. I'm actually interested in this too. So,
oh man, I'm gonna give a lot of hot takes then.
Well, hang on. Before we do this, is Columbus like renowned for pizza? And I just didn't know.
Columbus has really good pizza.
Okay.
They want it to be known as Columbus style pizza.
What is Columbus style?
It's like party cut. So like the little squares, like the 3-inch square cut.
Yeah.
On kind of a thinner crust with like handmade sausage, usually a supreme. It's good shit. Like, it really is good. I think people outside of Ohio are pretty resistant to be like, Columbus doesn't have their own style of pizza. What are you talking about?
I will say this does sound eerily similar to Chicago style. And I'm not talking about deep dish stuff nonsense. I'm talking about like what Chicagoans actually think about when they think of pizza, which is thin crust, cut in squares.
Okay.
Bar style, tavern style pizza.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a whole institution. I feel like it's kind of Midwest.
Probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I mean, Ohio had a huge influx of Italian immigrants, like turn of the century, 1908.
Mm-hmm.
So you see a lot of these places, they're like open for 120 years. We make it the same way Grandpa used to. And it really has just kind of stuck around. So I was surprised by how good some of the pizza was, to a point where I wrote a comic about it for the Columbus Scribbler.
Okay.
Yeah.
That caused a lot of incendiary comments my way.
Oh, shit. All right.
People get really opinionated. But the worst pizza is probably the Wizard of Za. Not because the pizza itself is bad. It's like super mid, but it's on like a 4-month waiting list. And like, it was one of these dudes
white
making
people
pizza
love
in there.
waiting for shit. They love lines. They love.
It's so bad. Like, that doesn't make it more premium.
So what's the deal? Is it like just X amount of pizzas made per day? Like, what's the thought process here?
Yeah. Well, it was just one dude making them in like his garage for a minute, and he ended up getting a space and getting an oven and like kind of starting a restaurant. But by then the hype was just unreal, and so he started like pushing out further and further in like how long he was willing to accept reservations for. And it's like not even, it's not that it's bad pizza. It's like a Sicilian style, kind of a thicker crust with like fresh basil on it and stuff. Like it's fine, but it's not anything like to die for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, it led to a bunch of other Sicilian-style pies opening up in Columbus to kind of compete and to say, hey, we're doing the same thing, but you don't have to wait 4 months to get it. You can just walk in and buy the same pizza.
So did you beat the crowd, or did you actually wait 4 months to try this pizza?
Oh, just waiting.
Yeah.
Damn.
You know? But it's, like, it's fine. The dude who was making them just recently stepped away from the business as a whole, which is like kind of odd to me because it was always this idea of this one man making pizzas. And so now who knows what they're actually doing, but people are still going crazy over this pizza. It just feels hollow now. No part of it's left from when it first started.
Yeah. It's become something completely different.
Yeah. And so I think that loses, not for being the worst pizza, because it's so easy to dunk on like Domino's.
Right.
It's just shit.
Yeah.
You know, Little Caesars, who gives a fuck, you know? But worst pizza for just like being weird about it. Very inaccessible pizza.
If you can find me a better pizza for $6 that's there already, like I don't even have to fucking wait. I just go to the place and it's there. If you can find me a better deal than that, fine. All right. You can talk shit about Little Caesars all you want. You can talk all your shit.
Absolutely.
But
yeah, and I will say this, like, and I may have said this on the show, but for the extra $1, like Little Caesars still has like the $5 deal, but they have like for $1 more, you get what they call the extra most best version of the pizza. And it's a legit pizza. Like, spend the extra $1 and it's like, you can't hate on this pizza. I mean, for being chain pizza. In my opinion, anyways.
Little Caesars with sriracha on it is like
okay. I see
nostalgia.
The vision.
There's no Hungry Howie's in the Midwest, right?
I kill for Hungry Howie's.
We had
one. Hungry Howie's.
Yeah, in the hometown I grew up in.
Are you for real?
Yeah, I love the different flavored crust they do. The fact that you can get like a little personal pan, and also very underrated. I don't know. I haven't had Hungry Howie's since like '04 because they closed our towns. But they used to do like the calzone deals. Like, and those were so good. You could get like an Italian sub calzone, and it was so good, man.
Yeah, we had all of them. We had a bunch of them in Florida, so I was definitely a Hungry Howie stan.
Yeah.
They still have them up in Detroit.
Okay.
And my wife are going up there for a show in October, end of October. And so we're like 3 days of the weekend, we're going to be getting Hungry Howie's.
Hell yes. What's the crust seasoning you go with in Hungry Howie's?
Oh, what is it? The garlic parmesan?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
it's like classic.
Yeah, they might not. Well, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's been like almost 20 years, but I used to always do like the pain in the ass move, being like, hit it with the ranch and the Cajun seasoning.
Oh, Cajun, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Very
That's
awesome.
good shit.
Not enough love for Hungry Howie's.
Yeah, and
No,
I mean,
it's true.
I don't know if it's still like because I remember you used to get like the little 10-inch pizzas, and they'd be like $3.99, like which was cheaper than Little Caesars, but smaller.
Yeah.
But you used to be able to get $4 pizzas from Hungry Howie's. It rocked.
I don't think they're that much more expensive. I feel like I'd be very surprised if they were breaking $10, but you know, that's just me.
It's true.
Actually, that segues good into Detroit because I love Detroit style pizza, which is like kind of it's its own thing in the Midwest landscape of pizza, right? Like it's the closest comparison to it is maybe deep dish, and even then, it's like not really the same at all.
Well, because they do the thing where somehow the best thing about the Detroit pizza is like that risen layer of cheese on the crust.
Yeah.
Like it's like the little, like almost like they're like jagged shards.
Yeah. You caramelize the cheese.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's where you get, which is why the best deep dish Chicago pizza you can get does that with theirs. It's like a caramelized crust around the edge, and it's fucking great. Sorry, I know we weren't supposed to really drag this all the way down into nothing but pizza talk for 20 minutes, but...
Oh, please.
Well, I just want to say one big thing for pizza with me is I've actually never been to New York City, but I like...
New York City?
Well, I like the New York pizza slice because I love pizza slices so big you can fold them. I think that is an elite move.
Yes.
Not enough people embrace that. Because if you're going to have a pizza, it's just the cutting that makes the slice big.
There's a lot of those in Florida, mostly because there's been so many New York, New Jersey folks that are transplants and then they move over to Florida. So there's a lot of New York style spots there, especially in Central Florida, where you can get a really nice, just giant slice that you fold it up and it's really good.
Hell yeah.
Not so much in Chicago, I found. It's like... The places that even do buy the slice, terrible. Like the worst fucking pizza you've ever had.
So you never had a good by the slice in Chicago?
No. And really, maybe there's one exception there, but it's kind of like a fancy bougier pizza place in Logan Square. So I don't really count it. But I mean, they do technically buy the slice, but I don't. I'm sorry. If you're paying $8 for a slice, that's not. In my mind's eye, that's not what I'm thinking of when I think of like buy the slice pizza. Like that should better be below $5 for a slice of pizza.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's true. So I gotta plug my favorite place in Columbus.
Oh yeah,
please do, please.
Because it'll upset a lot of people. It is a small place called the Carlos.
Sounds legit.
It is super legit. So it's a very special subset of Columbus style pizza called Ohio Valley pizza.
Okay.
And it's controversial. So you do a big square sheet pie with a bunch of sauce on it, like more than you would think you should. Mm-hmm. And you just cook it like that.
Okay.
And then it comes out of the oven piping hot.
Yeah.
And you put on frozen cheese and frozen pepperoni, and then you serve it immediately.
Whoa, so it's like a Lunchable almost.
It is the adult like gourmet Lunchable pizza.
Okay. I would try it, but is it also? I mean, it's your favorite, you said, so there's got to be something
it's
to it.
So good.
So what is
well,
it? What about it is like so enticing to you?
So it's definitely like a duality of really hot, kind of crispy cracker crust, and then cold cheese and pepperoni on top.
Interesting.
It's very nostalgic. I really do like pizza Lunchables. Like that's kind of the root of it.
Yeah.
But it's just a very unique slice of pizza, and it's a lot of really good texture.
Okay.
Because the crust does doesn't have to care about like the cheese overcooking or the pepperoni.
Sure, yeah.
And so like it's a way less greasy pie.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask for extra cheese, they'll just give it to you in a little baggie, like totally frozen.
Hell yeah.
Like if you're going to take it home or something, you just take it home and put the cheese on yourself.
That's funny. Okay.
So this is actually like a thing, though. Like other restaurants do this because you said it was like Ohio Valley style?
Yeah, Ohio Valley style pizza, which there's very few left that do it. And DeCarlo's is like the major like institution. They have like 3 or 4 locations in Columbus.
So big enough to franchise. Like it's a big enough type of pizza to franchise out, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Well, people who like it really love it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But it gets people's panties in a bundle. Because it's very different.
Now, the sauce, is it edging more on the sweeter side, more on the acidic side?
I'd say,
I'd
say less sweet, kind of just edging towards savory.
That's good. Okay. All right. I'll fuck with
this.
Yeah,
I'll try it.
Yeah.
I'll try it. I'm not going to write it off, but I will say that it is, I've never heard of it, and it's surprising and jarring. I'm actually Google imaging it right now, and it just looks like you made a Lunchable.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly
you know what it looks like?
is.
Do you remember when Lunchables like went into like mega mode for a while?
Yeah.
And this looks just like the mega mode Lunchable, like where it was like a square crust, and I would try this. Looking at a picture of it, I would try it.
Well, next time you're in Columbus, I'll hook you up.
I'm hesitant.
Yeah, no, I'm actually like next time I'm there, I'm gonna make a stop just to try this shit. Like, I have to.
I would love to try it. I am a little hesitant only because as a kid, I was not a fan of the pizza Lunchables.
Damn.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that doesn't affect how I appreciate this or not. So
yeah.
But like I said, willing to try it. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's a whole ass thing. They have a local cherry soda that like, I don't know, I associate it with DeCarlo's. So worth picking up a 4-pack or whatever. It's good shit. So that's my top pick for Columbus style pizza, or for Columbus pizza in general.
All right, Drew. Well, there you go, dividing the scene further. Good job.
Absolutely.
All righty. Next question. Actually, not a question, just a comment from friend of the show, Aaron Leffler, Instagram user Poops McGee in the Dirty Three. Not a question, but thanks for the Halftone Hospital resources and the work you put in it.
Oh, thank you. You know.
Yeah, and thank you from us too. You know, I use it as well, so really cool shit.
I'm glad. It's really my way of saying thank you to the comics community. Like, really, it just feels like I can't do enough for all these people who have made such a difference to me. And so if I can give back the one thing I'm really fucking good at, like, that's what I'm here for. So make cool comics with them. Thanks for using them.
Hell yeah. There you go.
All right. Instagram user mild_pain. Shout out to Abby.
Oh, fuck yeah. She is the best.
Yeah, we'll have Abby on the show at some point.
Awesome.
Sooner than later. Yeah, so.
Yes. All right. So she asked for Victoria. Thoughts on the GameCube game Shadow the Hedgehog?
Oh, fuck. So that game came out on my wife's birthday. So that's a whole ass thing. It was the first video game that I played that had swear words in it.
Oh, there's swear words in Shadow the Hedgehog?
Yeah. When he dies, he like falls off the cliff and he says, "Damn.
Damn you! No, it's not true."
Hell yeah.
It was pretty hardcore. So I'd play the game on mute. I played the entire game on mute because I was scared of God and my parents.
Yeah.
It is a gem, and we play it on my wife's birthday. Not every year, but we pull it out every couple of years because it's truly horrible. It is really bad. And
is it not a side scroller? Or is it when they try to do the 3D thing?
Yeah, it was a 3D thing, and it was like each level had the evil or the good ending, and you would go to a totally different level based on how like evil you were. And so like the game takes only like 3 hours to play because you do like 4 levels, but it's all like kind of choose your own adventure shit.
Okay.
And so then you get the bad ending and you go back and you get the good ending. And I think there was like 30 different endings. So I was a huge fan. I mean, it was like my favorite game series at the time, but then they just gave him like an assault rifle.
Oh.
And that was really appealing. Was just Sonic with a gun.
Yeah.
It was like, man, you gave the people what they wanted, which was Shadow with a bazooka.
Yeah.
Or a Glock. So Yeah, big fan.
So do you fight? I've played Sonic, of course, but do you fight Sonic? And is Sonic like the boss in the Shadow games?
Yo, you fucking kill Sonic.
Oh, okay.
If you're that bad.
Oh, so that's one of the endings where you can kill him.
Yeah, or it's like this like off-screen insinuation of death, but
yeah,
he's still like
it's pretty heavy for a Sonic the Hedgehog series
and
game.
Sonic's cracking jokes till the end. It's like still a Sonic game, but he just loses.
Yeah.
It's crazy as hell. Yeah, big fan. I think I was obsessed with it for like a year in like middle school. It was a lot. Somehow rated E10 plus.
Everyone 10 and over.
Yeah.
So did they end up remastering this?
I don't think so. I think it.
Okay,
it
so you
lived
got to
and
play
died
on
the GameCube. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that does it for listener questions. Victoria, thank you so much for coming on the show. Before we get out of here, though, just go ahead and plug your stuff. Where can people find you online? Where can they follow you? What can they buy, et cetera, et cetera?
Okay. So you can find me online on Instagram at blackbit.exe or at my website, blackbit.world. I'll be putting out my new book here in about a week. Hopefully going to have it up on an online shop soon by the end of the year. But if not, catch me at Cartoon Crossroads or Philly Comics Expo next year. Yeah. Head to halftonehospital.com if you want free comics resources and like digital assets for comic creation. I put stuff out, try and put something out once a month at least, and no end in sight. So keep making cool ass comics.
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
Yep. Well, that'll do it for this episode. Tune in next week when we further discuss Taco Bell and pizza. Stay gutter.